Now, 65 journalists and media workers were killed doing their jobs in 2017. That's according to new figures from Reporters Without Borders. They say victims were murdered or died in conflict. For the sixth year running, the deadliest country for journalists is Syria. But despite the figures, the number of reporters killed has actually fallen to its lowest number in 14 years. So many journalists are giving up working in the most dangerous places. Let's get more on this with Johann Bihr, who's the head of Eastern Europe and Central Asia desk of Reporters Without Borders and joins us now from Paris. Good to have you with us. So, still a lot of journalists killed, but the least deadly year in 14 years. What do you put that down to?
Yeah, well, it's actually not so easy to know, but we can assume that indeed the conflict zones are simply abandoned by journalists, be they local journalists or international journalists. For instance, there are less and less foreign reporters going to Syria. And Libya, for instance, Yemen as well, have been progressively abandoned by foreign reporters. So indeed, this is good news that there are less and less reporters killed, but still, it's not such a good news if it means that the blackout actually won.
Indeed, journalists being murdered and targeted because of their reporting. Who is responsible for this dangerous climate? Is this a question of state responsibility?
Well, many states are indeed responsible, if not for the killings themselves, then for the investigation of the lack thereof. There is a wide impunity for the murders of journalists across the world. Only one murder of journalists out of 10 is actually properly investigated. So impunity still needs to be tackled both at the national level and at the international level. There's been some good moves in the past few years in terms of UN resolutions, for instance, for the protection of journalists, but there is a huge lack of implementation of these resolutions, especially at the national level. But also,
there's also I wanted to ask you about the increasing reliance by the big networks on cheap freelancers and local stringers. Do you think journalists in the field get the support that they need, or are they often left to fend for themselves?
Well, freelancers indeed are more and more exposed, and this is a fact as well, that they are very vulnerable and they often lack the support of their newsrooms. But still, some progress has been made in terms of international agreements, and maybe some newsrooms are starting to take better measures. But indeed, newsrooms also have a share of responsibility. I also would like to mention, of course, the responsibility, the direct responsibility of some non-state groups, such as obviously the Islamic State, but also other non-state groups which are responsible of many murders of journalists. And also organized crime, corrupt politicians are responsible for murders of journalists. We note that 60% of killed journalists this year have been deliberately targeted. So they've not been on the front line in a conflict, but they've been deliberately targeted because their investigations were problematic to some powerful ones. So this is a quite shocking fact that needs to be addressed.
Johann, good to speak with you. Thank you very much indeed for your thoughts there. Johann Bihr there from Reporters Without Borders.